Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Northwest Oklahoma Sports Show. I'm your host, Nick Friesen, current sports writer at the Enid News and Eagle. This episode of the Northwest Oklahoma Sports Show is brought to you by Kinley's Tanning and Boutique in Enid. From custom game day tees and boutique fashion to tanning and red light therapy, they've got everything you need to look good and feel even better. Stop by 2108 West Willow Road or follow online at kinleyscreations.com. Make sure you do what you usually do on Spotify and YouTube on the Northwest Oklahoma Sports Show. On YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on that bell for notifications so you never miss a video or a podcast. And then on Spotify, make sure you're following the page Northwest Oklahoma Sports Show so you never miss a video or podcast on there as well. Alrighty, we have a fun show planned ahead for you, so let's get right into Northwest Oklahoma Sports. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Northwest Oklahoma Sports Show. I'm your host, Nick Friesen, current sports writer at the Enid News and Eagle, and the host of this podcast every Saturday morning, which, that literally is every Saturday morning since it is 12:22 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I'm recording this podcast. I debated on doing it at 6 a.m., 6:30, but high school football is fresh on my mind right now because we got lots to talk about from Northwest Oklahoma high school football. We'll talk about all the games that happened on Friday night. We'll be talking about the Garfield County Report with the Highway 81 Classic at Pioneer. I think it got moved to Kingfisher actually on Saturday. I think some rain and some weather played into that, but I think it got moved to Kingfisher on Saturday, so we'll be talking about that as well. And then we'll be talking about college football that's starting up Saturday. I guess it technically started last week, but it's the real deal that is this weekend with a bunch of highly ranked matchups. I'll be giving my thoughts on OSU and OU and other games across the country. And then we'll have my rant of the week, which, if you saw the first episode of the Northwest Oklahoma Sports Show podcast, pretty good indication into what I'm going to be ranting about this week. So let's get right into it. So we're going to be talking about high school football first. I went to Enid, Ponca City on Friday, and then Cherokee and Timberlake on Thursday. We'll get started with Enid. It was not a fun one for the Enid Plainsmen. They lost 65-6 on Friday to Ponca City. That's a rival game. I think it's the first time since 2019 that Enid has lost to Ponca City. So, Ponca City did get that win. Not a fun one for the Enid Plainsmen on offense or defense. I think Ponca City had over 300 total yards, might even had 400 total yards. Their defense was good too against the Plainsmen's offense. Just not a fun night. I mean, it started out really good. I thought, when they had that trick play in the first quarter with Nehemiah Hernandez handing it off to Anthony Gonzalez. Then Gonzalez pitches it to Des Middlestead, and then he finds Lane Slater down the sideline. That was pretty cool. So I thought, obviously Nehemiah Hernandez finished it off with a 1-yard touchdown run. So I thought, maybe they can just get some things going offensively. At that point in time, the defense was holding its own against the Ponca City rushing attack. So I thought, maybe they could get some things going on offense and maybe get this to a 2-score game at the end of the first quarter. But then Ponca City just ran away with it with 65 unanswered points in the contest, and they secure the win over the Plainsmen. Obviously, I mean, it was a slew of players for Ponca City that just had monster games. Quarterback Johnson Burke, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. And D. Rogers, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 receiving touchdown. This is my favorite name of the night, by the way, that I'm about to say. Bam Bam Coleman, 1 rushing touchdown. Shout out Bam Bam Coleman. You have the greatest name, I think, in all of high school football. So it was just a fun night for Ponca City and just not a great night for the Enid Plainsmen. One thing I did notice, though, throughout the game is no matter, the score or anything, what was going their way or anything, Enid just kept fighting and kept showing effort. So, I mean, there is that. I mean, they were still fighting and scratching and clawing. So you got to give props to that they're just not backing down at, throughout the game. I did see the effort. I did see the hard work and the intensity still throughout the contest. So that's a good thing to see. 3 takeaways I come from this game. Ponca City's just a more experienced team, honestly. They got a lot of returners from last year's team that lost 43-10 to Enid in the season opener last year. And they all return, and when you return, you have a lot of more experience. And so, they're just a more experienced team. Enid had over 20 seniors last year, and they have some new talent at quarterback, just trying to find some pieces offensively. Ponca's just a more experienced team. And so usually in season openers with that, the more experienced team's going to win. And Ponca did just that. Another key that I saw is, I take away from this is with Enid is everything will get better as the time goes on. I think once they get some reps underneath them in practice and just, some game stuff and everything, they will improve and they will get better offensively and defensively. You got to remember, Nehemiah Hernandez, this is really his first time to play the position. And, that first couple drives, he looked really good. And, he had some other moments throughout the contest as well. So I think as time goes on, they will just get, they will improve offensively and defensively, and they will just get better and better underneath Brad Cornelson's system and everything. And, a third takeaway that I, took from that game is you've got to create more opportunities for Lane Slater and Des Middlestead, because you saw some flashes out there. Des I think he had 4 catches for 56 yards or something like that, or over 50 yards for sure. Lane Slater had that long pass, completion or reception down the sideline on that trick play. So, they were creating some moments, and whenever they got the ball and they caught the ball and everything, they were creating some moments out in space. So, got to find some more ways to create, more opportunities for those two, because they are dynamic playmakers and everything. But, outside of that, it's just it's going to get better as the time goes on. I know at 65-6, you're like, holy crap, I don't know if it will, but it's going to get better, because this is year one underneath Cornelson's system. And so, by year 2, year 3, they will understand, what it takes to be successful in that offensive system, and even in that new defensive system under new defensive coordinator Dan Lemke. But that's really all I had from the Enid game, offensively and defensively. But it just wasn't a fun night. But I think they will bounce back with a stronger showing against Lawton week 1 next Friday at the Bruce Selby Stadium at Eden High School. So the second game I covered this week was Cherokee versus Timberlake. And oh my gosh, that was a shootout. Timberlake won 64-60 over Cherokee, and the offense was on full display from both teams. Timberlake's Peyton Pierce had 3 passing touchdowns on the night. Running back Maverick Judd had 2 touchdowns. Paxton Glenn had 4 receiving touchdowns on the night. And the offense, was the same for Cherokee. Dawson Schombacher with 2 rushing touchdowns. Trey Green with 2 rushing touchdowns. I think he had those 2 touchdowns in the third quarter that kind of got Cherokee back into that game. He also had over 150 rushing yards on offense. So the offense was on full display for both teams, and it was awesome to see just that sort of like offense just stay intact and stay, high intensified throughout the whole game between both teams. And it really wasn't bad defense. It was just great offense that, helped both of these teams out in the contest. So 3 takeaways I take from this game. Non-district games equal preparation. So we'll start with Timberlake on that, because they got some pieces to replace on the offensive line, some places at linebacker, and, just overall their defense. And so these non-district games for them are just going to prepare them for their run to the Class C state title game. And so here's, Coach Brian Severin just talking about some of those younger guys, getting that experience in this first game, and how that will only just, prepare them for the rest of the season.
How young we are. We got sophomores, freshmen. they're going to get better.
Yeah.
And that's what this is a really good ball club.
Mm-hmm.
And we stressed to them that it was going to be a tough game tonight. But, every series we saw a little bit of improvement, a little bit. So we're going to be all right. It's just going to take some growing pains.
How important is that just with these next 5 district games and everything, or non-district games?
It is. I mean, it's big because every snap is going to be a benefit to those younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to get to play a lot these next few weeks, and they'll get better. We just got to be patient. I'm discouraged with the fumbled snaps because that's the senior center and the senior quarterback. We've got to get that corrected, which we will. But overall, I mean, a win's a win.
So it's like you said, these younger guys are just going to get more prepared, more ready for these games, later on, the district games later on, so that they could be fully prepared for those games to make a run to the Class C state title game. Another key I took away from this is Cherokee is going to be a problem in Class B2. They're in that district with Wacomas and Covington Douglas, and I think those 3 teams will be, the deciding factor in that district. And so, with Dawson Schombacher, he is not your average, Class B2 quarterback. He looks bigger, and he looks just, he's faster than most athletes in Class B2, and he just looks the part. And I think, last year when he was a freshman, it was just more of a learning curve with him. And now, Coach Bryce Schombacher has said he's just taken on more of a leadership role, and he's just developed, developed well in the quarterback position. And, I think they're going to be a problem in B2, especially with some of those skill weapons that they have that he can throw to and just hand the ball off to. Trigream did, impress me with his playmaking ability in the rushing attack. And so Cherokee is going to be a problem in B2. The third takeaway I took from this is Peyton Pierce's creativity in this game was the deciding factor, I think, for Timberlake. On offense, there were several times where Cherokee was right there. They were right there to make that sack. Peyton Pierce's, just his creativity in the pocket and be able to escape. And, he had one throw. I think he threw it across his body. And so that's something that they don't teach quarterbacks because that can lead to mistakes. And, he did that and he completed. He threw a dart. I can't remember who he threw it to, but that was an impressive throw. And, just his creativity outside the pocket was truly impressive in this game because that's really what happened. He got outside of the pocket and he either found Paxton Glenn, Maverick Judd, or some of these other dudes, Bodie Thomas, Alex Brewer, and some of these other dudes, helped him make these big plays. But it was really Pierce's, creativity outside the pocket is really what helped Timberlake win this game. And so here's Coach Severn talking about that and kind of just, he understands the system. So that's what makes him successful even when he's in the pocket or outside the pocket.
Well, he's just a heads-up kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, he knows the game real well. One of those that watches films and loves the game. He'll find the open receiver, and it's just a matter of, we got to work a little bit up front because at times he was pressured, but we'll get that corrected. We'll get that taken care of and move on.
Your rushing attack was good tonight with Maverick and Alex. I know Alex, left the game with an ejection and everything, but just, talk about your rushing attack. I mean, it helped y'all late there in the game.
Right. Well, I'm very proud of Bodie Thomas. He's a sophomore kid that came in, took over for Alex after Alex was gone, and very proud of him, ran hard. He's got a bright future ahead of him. But, yeah, Maverick's a gamer. He's tough. When he gets the ball, good things happen. So just what did Belichick always said? On the ringwood.
So it's like Coach Severn said. Peyton Pierce understands the system. He understands what it takes to be successful. And he knows what it takes to lead Timberlake back to the Class C state title game. We're going to go through some scores across Northwest Oklahoma. Pioneer took the 38-6 victory over Drumright. Several players had a touchdown run for Pioneer, and that's something Coach Gus Overstreet has been preaching to me. Run. Make sure you create that hard-nosed, smash-mouth football. So congratulations to Pioneer there on the dominating victory over Drumright. Cashman took the 41-13 win over Hennessy. Looks like they were unveiling a new turf field. So that's, a dominant showing on the new field. 360 yards of total offense. So, that's how you get it done on the new turf field. That's how you create that new life on that turf field. So congratulations to cash in right there. Wacomas took the 60-12 win over Depew on Friday. Wyatt Smith with 5 total touchdowns, so it's a solid showing from the Wacomas quarterback. Garber takes a 48-0 win over Canton. OBA, I talked about this in my preview in the Enid News and Eagle. I mean, they were looking for some revenge, and they did get some revenge Friday, taking the 62-12 win over Savannah. Cal Kayot, dominated in the passing game for them. Liam Berry also dominating on the receiving end for them. So solid showing for OBA's offense and really, OBA's defense because I remember last year that was a high scoring matchup. So, improvement on the offense and improvement on the defense. So congratulations to the Trojans at OBA. Metro Christian took the 35-18 win over Chisholm. O'Keene dominating Alex 46-0. Ace Long with 3 touchdowns on the night. Olive taking down Kremlin Hillsdale 50-36. Coyle taking down Pond Creek Hunter 16-6. Cyril taking down Medford 42-12. And this is one of my shocking, instances and scores of the night. Fairview taking the 56-0 win over Alva. I mean, Fairview does have some pieces coming back, but so does Alva. I think they're kind of like in the same position of, Fairview's replacing Jax Bernard, talented senior. Alva's replacing really 3 talented seniors with Campbell Gasford, Lance Mathers, and Hunter Felder. So, I mean, they were kind of in the same position of trying to, find some, key players to fit those key positions. But Haddon Miller for Fairview's back, Trace Bonham for Fairview's back. So, I mean, 56-0 is it really doesn't surprise me, but it's just, it's kind of shocking to see, that is a rival matchup for Fairview and Alva. But Fairview takes the win and moves on to 1-0 on the year. So now we're going to move on to the Garfield County report. This is, everything happening in Garfield County, all the sports that are going to be talked about and everything. So we're going to start with the Highway 81 Classic that was supposed to be at Pioneer and Chisholm, but it's actually going to be played at Kingfisher, the finals of the tournament. So advancing to the finals is Kingfisher versus Tonkawa. So Kingfisher back into another final situation after, taking the title in the Highway 33 Classic. So really, Kingfisher has just, dominated this tournament really with, beating Ponca City JV on Thursday, beating Pioneer on Thursday. Friday, taking 2 wins over Blackwell and Hennessy. So, I mean, it sets up a fun, really intriguing matchup with, Tonkawa, who, did take down Enid, earlier this year and everything. So I expect really just a solid, showing from both teams and everything. It should be a high competitive softball game with a lot of good pitching and, just quality fielding and hitting and everything. I expect, Kingfisher last week did the battling game of just, battling and keep grinding out, hits and everything and creating those opportunities on the base pass and everything. And I expect the same thing because that's what they thrive in. They thrive in, once that other team creates a mistake, Kingfisher's going to make you pay, and they're going to make you pay the hard way. Newcastle, got the bases. They had the bases loaded on them against Kingfisher in that title game at the Highway 33 Classic, and Kingfisher just popped off 4 runs just like that. And so, when they make mistakes, Kingfisher makes them pay. And so I expect the same thing in the Highway 81 Classic Finals out at Kingfisher High School. So we're going to flip things over to Enid softball, and they did take on Edmond North Thursday in district play. Came away with the 4-1 win, so another district win for the Enid Pacers. So congratulations to them. Capri Mark just continues to dominate, at the plate, and just her speed on the base paths is something that just is really impressive to see in person, really. She went 2 for 3 in the contest with a home run, an RBI, and a 1-run scored. So, I mean, she just continues to dominate the plate, and I'm excited just to see her and the rest of these Pacers just continue to, find ways and create opportunities at the plate for, their teammates and everything. Palmer Pasby had a double and an RBI on the night. Sarah Jensen had an RBI on the night. So, kudos to them on offense. 7 hits on offense and everything. Their offense has been clicking as of late. So, I mean, hopefully it just stays like that for the rest of the way, and just steady Eddie until the postseason, and that's when the offense really explodes. Then it's because everything just turns to another level in the postseason, and so I'm excited to see what they do, for the rest of this season, and just excited to see what they do in the postseason. Really, Gracie Combrink was in the circle, and she was her usual self. 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 9 strikeouts on the night. So, I mean, once she can find that location and she can control everything, she's untouchable, really. So, another win for the Enid Pacers, another district win for the Enid Pacers. So, congratulations to them. They're going to be moving on and completing the rest of their district slate. I think they play Edmond Memorial Monday on Labor Day, so that will be. I think it's a 4 p.m. start. So make sure you tune out there because that should be a highly contested matchup between those hitters and those Edmond Memorial pitchers. So make sure you get out to Pacer Field on Monday, Labor Day at 4 p.m. So we're going to now switch over to college football because it's really back this weekend with, I think, one of the best slate of games across all of college football's history. So it's going to start with Lee Corso's final headgear pick, so make sure y'all tune into that on Saturday morning at College Game Day. We're going to flip back to Thursday because Oklahoma State did play on Thursday. They took the win over UT Martin on Thursday, and I just thought it was a couple of my thoughts. I just thought it was a simple, vanilla, game plan for Mike Gundy, and usually he does that in the first, weeks of the regular season and everything. You don't really want to show anything, especially when you got to go to Oregon next week and be in that environment and everything. Another thing is I thought, Haas Haney looked really good on offense, being at quarterback and, running that offense and everything. It just sucks that he's hurt now and he's going to miss a significant period of time. So with his broken bone and everything, but it just sucks because they looked really good on offense in those first couple series when he was out there and everything. Zane Flores took over, and I thought Flores was fine. 13 for 20 with 136 yards. One thing they have to do if this happens with Flores, starting for a significant portion of the regular season, is they've got to establish a run game, and they really haven't done it since last year. And it's they have to, especially with Flores and everything being a dominant thrower and all that, and they have to establish a run game, and that has to start with Oregon. If they don't do that, they're going to get blown out by Oregon next week. It's just that plain and simple. But overall, I just, they got to improve. They got to get better at everything. I thought the defense looked good, though. I really did. Wendell Gregory looked really good with 3 sacks and everything. Todd Grantham, the new defensive coordinator, he had a game plan for them, and it looked solid. It looked like a competitive Big 12 defense that, could create, some magic in the Big 12 and create some, mistakes for teams in that conference and everything. I thought it was a little bit of in between with me. I thought, the offense could have been better, but I thought the defense was really good. So solid showing, I think, for the Oklahoma State football team on Thursday. So now we're going to switch things up and talk about OU's contest against Illinois State. Couple of thoughts on that is I just want to see the offense look consistent and have that, that factor in the game that, they can take over a game whenever they need to. I just want to see that. I just want to see the offense have, actual fun out there. I want to see Mateer play well. Obviously, that's the, the talking point throughout the offseason is John Mateer, Jaden Ott. I want to see that. I know he's not listed high in the depth chart. I know Javante Barnes will probably roll out there with the 1s, and Torrey Blaylock will go out there with the 2s. Part of that is because, Jaden Ott's been hurt in camp, and those other 2 guys have not. So, they got rewarded with being 1 and 2 on the depth chart. So, I just want to see the offense, be consistent, especially at the wide receiver group. I want to see who can stand out in that position group. So, the defense will take care of itself. I think they have one of the best defenses in the SEC. I think they have the best defensive line in the SEC. So the defense will take care of itself in this game against Illinois State. The offense has just got to be better than last year, and that's not hard to do. So I think they will take care take care of business against Illinois State, and they will focus on the highly anticipated matchup against Michigan that next week. So now we're going to switch over to the rant of the week. This is a topic I pick in the sports world. It doesn't really have to be with Northwest Oklahoma or anything, but it's something that I pick in the sports world and I rant, get my take on it. As I stated earlier in the podcast, it's going to be about the Dallas Cowboys once again. What a shock. What a shock. If you all have not seen the documentary, here's a quote that Jerry Jones basically gave. I'm going to paraphrase this, but it was basically he wants to keep this organization as a soap opera. Boy, did he do that on Thursday. Trading away what I think is one of the top 3 best linebackers, defensive ends in the NFL right now. And so this whole offseason has been a strangle between the Dallas Cowboys and Micah Parsons. What a shock. Jerry not paying his players. Blah, blah, blah. So now it's culminated in Micah Parsons being traded to the Green Bay Packers. Kind of torn on it. Actually, I'm not. Kenny Clark is not very good anymore. Coming off his worst year in his career. You know what happens when people come off their worst years in their career? They get worse and worse and worse. And 2 first-round picks, we could have got 3. We could have got 4. Heck with Kenny Clark. Let's get 4. 4 first-round picks. And just the thought, this whole Jerry press conference on Thursday was just so dumb. So they asked him a question about just the overall, like, what are the players, just that are needing of extensions and everything. What do you think those players are thinking right now and everything? He says, ask Dak. In reference of Dak Prescott. Highest paid quarterback in NFL. Oh my gosh, he did not deserve that. He doesn't deserve anything. He hasn't proved anything. I think from his first few seasons in the NFL, Micah Parsons has proved something. I don't know. It's just so frustrating at this point. I'm a firm believer in once you have a Hall of Famer, keep the Hall of Famer. And I think Micah Parsons is virtually on a path to the Hall of Fame. He's got to win a couple of Super Bowls, I think. But I think he can get it done. But he didn't want to leave. I know just from all the reports and everything, I just know he didn't want to leave. But it's gotten to the point of where it's so bad that you just got to end it. And, Jerry also saying, like, got those draft picks and everything from the trade. He's like, we could use this on getting another player. You have never done that. Never. Never, never, never. You're going to get in the draft and you're going to get those draft picks. And, maybe they're good, picks by him. He's made some really good picks over the last couple of years, including Micah Parsons. But I don't know, man. I'm a firm believer in Hall of Fame talent stays with his team for the rest of his career. And, the whole situation of, Jerry offering him a contract, but his agent wasn't there. Just bizarre. It's still bizarre to me. And it's like I said, Jerry's quote, I'm paraphrasing it, but his quote in that documentary on Netflix is he just wants to keep this organization like a soap opera. He wants them keeping them in the news all the time. Boy, has he done that through his entire tenure with the Dallas Cowboys. It's frustrating at this point with just him and the whole situation and everything. I think now you got to look at them not only not making the playoffs, but oh man, losing record for sure. that means you're not in the playoffs. That means you also have a losing record, and I think it could get really bad this year. But they had a moment. They could have just made amends with him with Micah Parsons, and nope, that's not going to happen. But congratulations to Micah. I'm a firm believer also that people should get paid for what their talents are, and congratulations to him because he got paid and he deserves it. He deserves what every single penny of that new extension. So congratulations to Micah Parsons, Dallas Cowboys. What a shock. So that will do it for this edition of the Northwest Oklahoma Sports Show podcast. Lots of great football happened in week 0. It's only going to get better as the weeks go on. Trust me, people. I mean, these 8-man teams in Northwest Oklahoma are going to battle it out to see, who the top team is in Northwest Oklahoma. I think there's a lot of teams that can contest for that. I saw one Thursday night. Timberlake, Cherokee can be right there. Wacomas, Covington, Douglas look really good on Thursday as well. Just a lot of solid teams that, if everything falls their way, they're going to, capitalize on those, opportunities and everything and, create those moments this year and have a fun high school football season. But we'll be back next Saturday for another edition of the Northwest Oklahoma Sports Show. So do what you always do, Northwest Oklahoma sports fans. Go out and support your Northwest Oklahoma sports teams.